Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment, your journey into personal growth. The splendor of any decision is after you've made it. All that remains to be seen are its consequences. My name is Ken Primus. I am your host. Here at Threads of Enlightenment, we talk about the principles of self-development and personal growth. By having conversation with people who have walked through their journey of personal growth, we believe that everyone at some point in their life will have to deal with one or more of these principles to have the privilege of focusing on their self-development as humans. These principles, when applied, can help you to become the best self possible. Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment. My name is Ken Primus, and I am your host. This episode, we're going to talk a little about self-love. We're going to dig into what I call the first aspect or the first space that you as an individual need to be, you and I need to be. And many of us have gone through our life, have never, ever had a chance to truly love ourselves or even, began that journey. And it is a wonderful journey. And my hope is that each and every one of you that hears this podcast would endeavor to start that type of journey where you get a chance to find out who you are. I remember a friend of mine, one of my best friends, Tony, and I, we went to see the Dalai Lama several years ago I think we were in Tampa. And there's a part of it where he was asking questions and stuff like that. And someone gets up and asks him, what's the key to life? And I think he gave one of the best answers I've ever heard in my entire life. So I don't know. He said, what's the key to your life? And I think that was much more profound of a statement than, what's the key to life or the secret to life? And he says, I don't know. And I thought that was just absolutely beautiful. We don't know. You have to find that out. That's an individual journey. And you need to take that journey to find out. And so my desire is that as we get together and spend time listening and growing, that we would begin to start that journey to find out who we are. The first, I want to go back a little about the title Self-Love and Threads of Enlightenment. I've mentioned previously that there was a story behind that. Threads of Enlightenment was a concept that I thought of once I visited a ashram, and coming again, I grew up in Christianity, and I got a chance to sit in the ashram, and I saw that a lot of the principles that were being taught there were also the principles that were being taught in my background, from my background. And so as I look and I see different religions, because I had studied religion back in college, and I see that institution is very divisive in the whole scheme of things with mankind. But I digress. Let me get back to the book, Threads of Enlightenment. It was simply an idea where I wanted to get someone from a different religious background. I put together 10 chapters, and I had given it to Radhe Chef. And I'm going to try and get her to come one day on a podcast so that you guys can get to see this woman is full of wisdom, and she gave so much of herself in that book that she opened up and taught a lot of principles that were freeing even to me. And that's the concept that I would like to continue, is that you and I, from whatever background we came from, that we were able to collectively walk together and help each other out and help us to become the best human spirit that we can possibly be. Well, the first, she is from the Hindu background. I'm from Christianity. And again, I came up with these 10 chapters because I felt that these are 10 places or spaces that each and every one of us have to visit in order to become mature. We have to, because it's a process. We have to shed things. We have to free ourselves as we move from one chapter to another. The first chapter that we dealt with was self-love. The second was solitude. The third, unchecked emotions, forgiving others, attitude for success, conquering damaging habits, giving of yourself, discovering your gift, how to begin using your gift, and the power of words. These stages, we're going to take a look at each and every one of them. And globally also we would look and bring in insights from other people that are part of the self-help or personal growth industry. And I am one that love to recommend books and read books. And we will be doing some of that for you to get a chance to read, because it's our responsibility to get wisdom and understanding and use it to free ourselves, and so that we can be the best that we can. And so as we dig into self-help, we'll get a chance to expose some things about what you have believed and how you can change your belief system. And the belief system is a gift that is given to every single human being, everyone. And so it is that ability to take in information and that ability to have that information lodge into our beings, where it hits into our spirit, soul, and body, and it becomes such a part of us, and then we begin to act, and it governs everything that we do. As I mentioned to you, how it comes and become a belief. It starts from a thought. We talked a little at the end of the last episode about how the Bible says, Jesus said to his disciples, take no thought saying. And that principle is that when someone says something to you, that you would take this thought into your being, you would then deposit it, you would then confess it, and then you would act on that confession, and then it manifests and bear fruit. And so that's what that principle of taking no thoughts, what he was trying to tell them, don't worry about anything. Just, don't focus on that. And so you and I have to learn how to not to let the outside energy, the outside situation take control of your inner being. And so you're going to have to learn how, when someone says something that is out of character, out of your belief system, that would naturally get you upset. Our goal is that we would just take a breath and respond out of a different space other than anger, and, where you would turn around and verbally abuse that person as well. So how do you find self-love? I know there's a quote that I remember. Someone had said, this is how you find self-love. You dig, you isolate, and you ache. You ache from being lonely. You heal, you accept, you look in the mirror and see God. That is self-love. And self-love is simply a journey. It's continual. And I know Rade, I'm going to read some excerpts from the book about what she had said about self-love, and you'll see the wisdom that is in this beautiful person that she is. Let me give you her perception of what self-love is. Self-love is a point of origin for the ever-expanding experience of self. It is the big bang of the eternal internal. It is a commitment to strip myself of judgment, criticism, unworthiness, arrogance, in other words, to strip myself of my ego, which tells me I am better than or less than what I am. For to love myself unconditionally does not mean to look at myself through a rose-colored lens of my ego, but rather to look at every strength, every weakness, every unique characteristic that distinguishes me from you. What a beautiful expression of what self-love is from her point of view. And again, the purpose of putting this book together, and I wanted to get an insight. And then one of the reasons why I also picked a woman other than a man, because I wanted to get a female point of view for each and every one of those topics. And my concept, and I believe that when you have a male and a female that are true partners, that they look at a situation from several different angles, and they get to see that more clearly. And as a team, they're able to handle that situation and become victorious through it. But I think in our society, a lot of us, we quit before when any type of we're in a relationship that is a good relationship. The person, you guys love each other, and you allow other things to come in and destroy your relationship. I had to learn, and that whole process is how this book came about, Threads of Enlightenment. Because while I was being, an enigma in life, I was just kept searching myself and looking and seeing how I behaved, and I would make notes of them. And so at the end of it, I find myself, I've done all the things that I wanted to do and my lifestyle, and I find that it wasn't fulfilling at all, and I needed more, and I started to look for more. So I started looking at myself. I remember I had pulled away from my friends and cutting ties with people to order to gain and become a better human spirit. So you have to make tough decisions, because not everyone wants to get to know who they are, and not a lot of people ever do get to know who they are. And so in my process, after I started pulling away from everything, I started going on dates. I would take myself on dates. I would go to movies with myself. I would go to the restaurants by myself. I would just take walks, and I would commune with myself. I would talk and say, "Okay, Ken, how's it going? What's happening? What do you need to do to change? What do you think you need to do? How are you going to do it?" These are the type of questions that you start asking. So looking at, what do I have now that I can change? What steps do I need? What book can I read? What fine tools to get? There's so much available today that is out there in the market to help. There's a whole industry about personal growth, and grab anything and read it and learn from it, and it will change your life, change mine. Iyanla Vanzant was an author that actually the book was written for women. And when I was going through my divorce, a friend of mine, an older lady, gave this to me, and she said, "Read this book." And that book changed my life. And I bought that book for everyone that all my friends that were going through things. I bought that book, and that was my gift that I was giving to people for years. And I actually can't even remember the name of the book, but I will get it and post it in the podcast so that you guys can get a chance to read that book. The principles and the wisdom that woman have saved my life. And so this podcast is to help save your life as well. And as we walk together, we can help each other. But this journey of self-love is, you have to face, you might find yourself to be an ugly person in the sense of internally, not physically. And you have to fix it. You may look at yourself and go, "Wow, I'm ugly." And, then fix it. Then start the process of fixing it so that is no longer you. That becomes no longer you. So Jesus makes a statement where people came to him and says, "Hey, what's the greatest commandment?" And he said, "To love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy might, with all thy strength, and to love thy neighbor as you love yourself." That is the problem that the world have today. People don't love themselves. The Buddhist teaches that if you learn to love yourself, you respect the smallest of animals, you have a totally different outlook into my life, your life. And so if you and I begin to disagree on a particular topic, because I'm in love with myself and I see the value in me, I'm going to see the same value in you. And so we can have our disagreements, but I value your life as much as I value mine. And so I am not going to do anything to harm you. And so we have, it's an exchange between two people that have a revelation of who they are and the value in their life. And because people do not have that love for themselves, that principle tells me that, because you don't love, it says love your neighbor as you love yourself. So the world is a mess because we haven't learned how to love ourselves. And so until we get to that, but it's a different type of things that you would teach kids. And so this is why I wrote this book with my children in mind, because I would sit down with them and we would have these conversations. And I wrote this book basically for them as my gift to them, and to show them the processes that their dad had to go through in order to heal, to become better. And I wanted to give them that gift. And so you have to learn to love yourself. It is the beginning of the beginnings. You got to forgive yourself. A lot of people don't forgive themselves. I carried guilt for years. Guilt governed my life. It governed my life to the point where it was brutal. I'd find myself walking and my thoughts, I'd be in that loop and couldn't get off that loop. And I mean, there are times, come on guys, I remember it would get so dark in my life that I'd sit there and figure out, want to know, how to end my life. And, I had 5 boys to take care of, and going through things, losing my family. It was dark, but I had to learn how to stand up. We talked about in the first episode about the prodigal son being with the pigs, and he made a decision and he stood up and he said, hey, if I go to my dad, I'm going to have food, so I better leave this place and go and hang out, go to my dad's house, because the servants are eating better there. And so he purposed in his heart, and he got up and he began to move. And so you and I have to begin to move. You have to begin to be kind to yourself. You have to speak kind to you. Stop being so harsh on yourself. Stop being so demanding on yourself. Stop being so mean to yourself. Tell yourself, stand up in the morning, find your quiet place. Whisper to yourself, I am beautiful just as I am. I am worthy just as I am. I am precious just as I am. I love myself just as I am, with all the darkness. If you learn to love you at this place, you can then turn around and love anyone, because you become self-accepting. You become more tolerable. You begin to tolerate yourself. Everyone who's listening to this podcast, we hope to continually help you to learn how to embrace moments of darkness, because it is in the darkness that we learn how to develop and use our abilities to truly see those parts of ourselves often invisible to us in the light. It becomes your responsibility to navigate through all of your trials, to find out who you truly are, and begin your journey to loving yourself, which is possibly one of the most difficult things you will ever do in your life. To love yourself and to find the real you. But always remember to enjoy the journey. Thank you for coming by. Please subscribe. And if you can support us financially, we deeply appreciate it. You can do this by hitting the heart button. Until next time, invite your family, friends, neighbors, anyone that you can. You can hear us on Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Overcast, and many more.